This is... I'm sorry, I have to get the case to explain the full majesty of the title here. Dupe Jellytown Original, Poinie's Sweet Flavored Poin, then some Japanese stuff I can't read, Addicted 100% Pure Poin. And if that doesn't explain to you exactly what this game is about, well, it's that thing what I just said. This game is an experience. It is life-changing. You will not go into playing this game or even witnessing it in any capacity and leave the same person you entered as. It's just weird like that. First and foremost, this is a Japanese exclusive PlayStation 2 title that is entirely 100% in English. And I mean, I've seen games that like record audio and then just don't get a Japanese dub for it, like Resident Evil, but no, this is not only voice acted in English, weirdly enough by the Japanese voice actors, but it's also translated, and relatively soberly so, into English. There's nothing in this game that's Japanese. And yet it's a Japanese exclusive, which is just bizarre. Alright, the story follows this kid, Poinie, who likes to oftentimes quote the great prophet MC Hammer, who is like the biggest dumbass ever. Seriously, you play through this game and you start to learn things about this kid that just make you question how he manages to breathe every day. Like, I feel like he needs to have a reminder tattooed on his arm just so he understands to do that. But he is separated from his mother, and his overarching goal is to find his way home, including a weird arc where he tries to leave to an external town on the other side of the country, decides to turn around halfway, and made that entire arc completely pointless. Seriously, it comes up and goes just as quick as it came, and there's no value to it. I don't understand. And he's in this world of equally dumb and horrible people who he has to constantly ask where he lives from, hoping to suss out some information from them. And spoiler alert, it doesn't work out well for him. However, there's also a plot of this weird girl with her evil cat minions messing with their emotions using something known as poins, which are these weird flavored jelly nonsense balloons that somehow convey emotion. And now he's been fused to Eric Cartman the Poin, who is now his duck-headed tail thing, maybe? This game is weird. Okay, so this game is a fairly basic platformer. The idea is you try and platform your way through the environments while utilizing the points to your advantage. And really that's it. There's not a lot of variance to the main mechanics of the game itself. You run, you jump, you collect points, and this is where this game gets really advanced. You learn colors, because there are 3 flavors of Poin. There are yellow lemon jubilation points of happiness, blue raspberry depression points, and there's hot cinnamon red angry points. You can collect them and throw them at people to influence their emotions, as well as mix and match and nullify emotions. So the idea is, if you combine any 2 colors, they end up turning into the 3rd color, whereas if you combine 2 of the matching colors, they nullify each other. And the same is true when throwing them at enemies. So if you see an enemy that's overly angry, you throw a red one at them and they calm down. You could then throw a yellow one at them and they get super happy and stuff. These things can also be utilized as platforms, and indeed are over the course of the game. However, and I've mentioned this in one of my previous reviews, these things aren't textured at all, really. And because of that, while it seems like such a small thing, it's actually really hard to judge distance on these things, which ends up leading to you often either misjudging the depth by overshooting or undershooting your jump and missing the thing entirely. And that's somewhat obnoxious because in certain levels, that means you've got about a 10-minute walk back to where you came from to try all over again. And the fact that they're round means that as platforms, they're a little bit awkward to figure out where they begin and end, especially when you can't judge depth on them. However, they are also mobile platforms. You can collect them and you can take them wherever you need to, as well as holding onto them in some weird, almost hot air balloon-esque fashion, and using them to glide around while holding them above your head. That's kind of neat. And that's pretty much the entire repertoire of abilities in Poinie's Poin. It's a very simple game that really doesn't try and overload you with mechanics. It's basically you can change people's emotions, you can run, you can jump, and you can use these things to glide around, and that's it. And I think that's probably to its benefit, because if it started overloading you with concepts, it might get a little bit convoluted really quickly. However, on the flip side, that means this is a very, very simple game, to the point where it's almost insulting when they try to make innovations. For example, this game has bosses like many other games. Okay. And some of these bosses are actually creatively done, like there's a giant fish who you have to feed the sadness, depressive blue raspberry points to cry to fill his lake because it's gone because of a drought. That's creative. I like that. But then for every one of those bosses, there's two that are just guys saying, okay, give me this color. Okay, give me this color. Okay, give me this color. It's really, really lazy and boring. And it just seems like an arbitrary use of mechanics that don't necessarily feel like they should be there in that instance. Another example of mechanics that feel mishandled is you can use these points to calm down tainted villagers in every level. And you'd think there'd be a reason to do this, right? Well, not really. I think there's one or two instances where you have to make a villager angry in order to have them knock over a piece of environment, and that's creative, I love that. But then the rest of the time, all the other characters just stand around and talk to you if you choose to actually go out of your way to nullify their toxic emotions or whatever. And the thing about that is, most of them say the exact same thing to you, so unless you're going for a score type thing, there's really no reason to even bother with them. And while I'm harping about design flaws in this game, there's only like 5 levels in this game, which makes it incredibly short, so if you're someone who likes a long game, that's a problem. But of those 5 levels, in between each of them, you then have to go back to the previous stage and find a collectible that wasn't there before that's now hidden in order to unlock the gate to the next area because arbitrary lengthening. And it's not even as bad as just, okay, go to the previous level, find a thing, open the next level, go. It's every time you talk to an NPC or something, they make you go to the previous area, talk to someone else, and then come back. I mean, seriously, this game feels like it's 3 times longer than it should be, and it's already like 3 hours long. And the only reason to revisit existing stages is to collect health power-ups that each stage has one of to permanently increase your health, but even then, for the most part, they are right in front of you and rarely ever out of the way. I mean, my first playthrough, I got through the game in 3.5 hours, having to deal with network connection issues because I was streaming it, as well as trying to take the longest course I could to collect everything. I ended up missing 2 health power-ups, and I still managed to get this done in only like 3 hours. So it feels like there could have been more levels, an expansion of your existing abilities, and a more creative use of those abilities than what you have, and just generally more polish, because there's just so much needless faff that it really does take away from this game. And that leads to another problem I have with this game, which is some of the levels are just dumb. Like, the 3rd proper level in this game is a jungle that is entirely vertical. And the thing is, unless you see this small hidden alcove off to the side, which is pretty easy to miss, you're just going to walk into a sign that says, turn around, you've gone the wrong way, but it's completely confusing. And then, of course, if you fall at any point during this level, you have to start from the beginning, which sucks. Later, there's a room with a locked door, and you think, okay, well, there's these robots who will open this door if I fix them. No. Actually, you need to go through this completely accessible vent from the side of the room that is basically completely unnoticeable. So even the level design at times is a bit bad. But you know, outside of that, the levels are actually fairly competent. And it's really surprising that it has just those simple issues. I mean, it's literally 2 moments of the game that I really had trouble with in terms of design. And the rest is just alright. It's not bad, it's not fantastic, but it works well enough to be enjoyable for the most part. And it just feels like there could be more to this game than there is. Oh yeah, and that's another problem. There is no real camera control in this game. You can set it to follow your character, and you can set it to be stationary, but there's no actual, like, manual control, which is just terrible. So that's a problem. But for what you get, it's fun and interesting and definitely strange. Just try and get past all that backtracking nonsense. And outside of those 2 moments where the levels aren't exactly competently designed, it's more or less a pretty straightforward romp. Now, the presentation to Poinie's Poin is alright, I guess. I mean, visually, it's bright and it's colorful. It looks like a very early PS2 game, however. And the character designs are very, very simple, but their exaggeratedness is quite enjoyable. And there are some genuinely really beautiful moments in the game. I remember this extra area in the ice world that just looked great. So visually, it's just kind of all over the place, but it has its high points and low points. Audio-wise, well, in terms of music, outside of the one or two vocalized tracks on the soundtrack, it's mostly completely forgettable. But like I said, the entire voice acting is done in English by the Japanese voice cast of all things, and it's kind of surprising because if you think of other instances of this happening, like Arc Rise Fantasia and Mega Man 8, it can get really, really bad really quickly. I was actually kind of surprised they used Japanese voice actors at all in this game, but the voice acting is really good. For the most part, you tend to get a broad variety of accents and stuff. For whatever reason, the Poin strapped to your ass sounds exactly like Eric Cartman for some reason. And there's a few characters that sound not only like racial stereotypes, but there's one that I would say is dangerously close to racist, if not already is. So the voice acting's kind of all over the place, but the fact that they did it entirely in English is really weird, but I appreciate it. It almost makes it feel like it was trying to be made for a North American audience, even though it was never released over here. Leading to a kind of all over the place presentation. I mean, audio and visuals both have high points and low points, and when it hits those highs, it's great. And when it hits those lows, you wish you weren't playing this game. But for the most part, it's serviceable. Now, if you want to get a copy of Poinie's Poin, it does not appear to be common because looking on eBay, there's a big goose egg for matching listings. I bought this game probably about 3-4 years ago when I was first trying to get an import playable PS2, and I've only since gotten to play this year, so it's been a wait, but I was pretty excited to play this. And it wasn't expensive when I got it. It was about $15. And for that, that's not bad. It feels a little high, but you know, I think that's within range of acceptability for cost. And at the end of the day, you know, one of the things I look at for games is the experience they provide, and oh boy, is this game an experience. I mean, I would recommend it just because of the experience it is, more than it actually being a game, because it's just a weird thing that exists. And it has all sorts of problems, its camera, its insistence on backtracking, all the artificial inflation because of that, and even some really low points in actual level designs, but the game concept is relatively solid, if simple. And if nothing else, having played this game, I can say I have played Dupe, Jellytown Original, Poinie's Sweet Flavored Poin, and then some Japanese I don't know, Addicted 100% Pure Poin, and that has to count for something in life, right? Life experience, if nothing else. This game is weird.